Hello, I'm Isabel, and this is From Mud. Like a lotus flower floating effortlessly on the surface in all its beautiful glory, it is a symbol of resilience. Because that same gorgeous flower grew from the icky, sticky muck and mud just below the surface. Something beautiful grows from something dark and cold and unyielding. It grows from mud. This channel is all about resilience and wellness in the face of life's challenges. Thanks for joining. Hello. Welcome back to From Mud. I'm Isabel, and I'm going to get right into part 2 of my third episode in my series, Our Family Cancer Journey. And the last episode, and I just want to mention that if you hear me sounding a little under the weather, I am getting over a cold, so hopefully that is not distracting. But, and I did record this third episode prior to me getting sick. I actually recorded the episode. I didn't have time to edit it, went to Florida, and I just got back last week, about a week ago, and I've been just working on things and trying to get it going, and here I am a little bit under the weather. So when you hear the rest of the episode that I had already recorded, I will sound different. So just wanted to give you a heads up so you're not surprised by that. But I just wanted to give a quick kind of intro back to what we were talking about. So part 1 of this episode was all about the rest of Justin's first year and his first year being diagnosed with cancer. So I went through basically October through January, talking about all the little things that he was going through. And, I wanted to just share that I started questioning if I should share so many details and in excruciating detail his experience. I did start questioning if I should be sharing so many details, and if it was going to kind of get people, if it's going to bog down the podcast or be too much for people. And I was kind of mentioning that to my brother, and he kind of encouraged me not to leave out details, and that he and probably other people would appreciate all the details because it kind of paints that story in a more full way, and you can really kind of feel, I guess, like the exhaustion and the relentless nature of the experience of having cancer, especially being terminally ill as well, and the pending doom and all the unknowns and everything. And I was telling him that I was grateful for him affirming me and supporting me in explaining this story and telling this story with as much detail as I want to and as I feel called to, because I was kind of thinking, like, I kind of feel like Justin was not the type of person to explain his story in great detail. He wasn't a long-winded person like I am. He wasn't someone who would necessarily tell you all the details of his experience and his suffering. For his close people, yes, but even I'm guessing he tried to shield us from some things until he could no longer shield me from things. But I think if you weren't in his daily life or kind of knew what was going on with him in an intimate way, he probably wouldn't have shared as much with you. He probably wouldn't have expressed as much how difficult things really were for him for a lot of different reasons. I think on one hand, it's like, if people are reaching out to him, he doesn't want to. It's like if you're reaching out to the same person every day and checking in on them, and every day is a bad day, it might be like tiring for the person like Justin in this situation to constantly say it's a bad day and like explain why it's a bad day and to go through all the details, and especially that some of these things were so consistent and daily. And just, I think on one hand it's like he didn't want to make the conversation negative. I think he wouldn't want to make other people uncomfortable, like if people don't know what to say or do or what to do with that information. So I think that's part of it. And then, yeah, I think another part of it was just, yeah, he just didn't want, I mean, maybe essentially it's like didn't want to make people uncomfortable. But I feel like when you do that, you're missing an opportunity to connect and to trust that person, to be able to just be there with you and to really let them in and to connect. And even though I feel like it was noble on his part to not want to burden people, I almost feel like this duty, or I feel called to just share that story, and to really tell the truth of what I saw and how much he endured. And I just want his story to be really like appreciated, and for it to be understood, his version of fighting cancer and being a warrior and all of that stuff, and what that really means. Like when people say that you are fighting cancer, or you're a warrior, or you're a cancer warrior, and it's like you don't get to know all of those details. You just get, the summary when you talk to someone in that situation. So I wanted to take the opportunity and really be thoughtful with this series and make sure that I really paint the picture and explain and tell Justin's story to the best of my ability, and just give him the praise and give him credit, I guess, or something like that, for a fight well fought, and to understand like what he endured. So I hope that's okay with everyone, that I share a lot of the details, and it might feel very tiring and hard to hear. So I hope everyone is okay with that and able to kind of just like hold that. And, if it's really intense for people, it's really hard to hear, and like you've been through losses and you've watched people die of cancer or other illnesses, and this is very triggering and upsetting information and story, take care of yourself, do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. I know that when I was going through Justin's cancer situation for those 2 years, I would not have been able to listen to stories like this at all, because I was not in a mindset of trying to imagine life without Justin, or, imagine a life where my spouse dies. So, like, I totally get it. I would have not been okay with hearing any of this at that time. So I can understand how this information is really hard to hear, but if you can just sit and take it in and not internalize it, or, not feel overly connected to it in your own body, then, thank you for bearing witness and just hearing the story. So, yeah, so that was the part 1 of this episode. Part 2 was supposed to be more practical and more about things we actually did to prepare to make life easier after Justin passed. I want to just real quick mention that it should be recognized that we have a level of privilege that allowed us to be able to prepare for this loss and to make it easier for me with the kids. I just want to mention that if I mention any kind of suggestions or not suggestions, but things that we did that helped, and you're listening to this and you're like, I wouldn't be able to do that. Just know that, these are just things that we did. We were in a position of, I guess we can say, financial privilege, economic privilege, and not everybody is in the same position. So I acknowledge that, and everybody's just doing their best in their given situation. So take what works, leave the rest. And without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and play the recording of part 2 of this episode.
So to get back to kind of what I was saying, was like, life was still going on. All these things were still happening alongside our cancer journey. And that's kind of how it is for everybody, right? Like, life gets so hard, and yet you have to continue on with these normal everyday things. You have your regular everyday things you're doing. You have your doctor's appointments. You have your pregnant wife. You have your treatments. You have your son. And then, and then we sent him to daycare for the first time. During that time, we're trying to potty train him. Justin was a very handy person. He was good at fixing things. He knew how to fix a good amount of things in the house as a homeowner. He decided, like, once he got his cancer diagnosis, I feel like his mind immediately went to, I need to prepare for the end, because the end is imminent and I need to start getting things in order. Some of that was like house projects. So like, he redid all of the flooring. His mom helped as well, but he primarily did all of the flooring in our play area. We had this open loft kind of extra space in our home that he wanted to transform into a really cute, like this Montessori style playroom, which just was really cute, like a lot of tans and khakis and whites and grays and cute wicker baskets and cute decor that was very like neutrals and just pretty and like nice looking. And he had a vision for that playroom, and he really wanted to give the kids a really nice, cute playroom that was well done. So he like redid, because our playroom, that loft, was so messed up when we first moved in there. It was like a football room, and it had this weird astroturf in the middle, but no flooring underneath, and the walls were red and black, and it was a mess. So he redid all the flooring, got that all set up. He did all the baseboards in our home. This is all while in his first year of cancer. Like, did the baseboards as in like cut them himself, painted them, primed them, painted them, nailed them in. He did the whole thing. I mean, I helped, but I'm usually more of the assistant in these projects than the primary person. So I'm just kind of doing what he tells me to do, and usually I'm on cleanup. But he's doing all the research. He's making things happen. We have Halloween. We're dressing up. We're, decorating the house, putting up the lights. Justin's birthday. So all of that's going on. Christmas is happening. Christmas goes good. Like that Christmas, that Thanksgiving, that cruise, all these, the birthday party for our then 2-year-old. A lot of times these moments would pop up, and it would be like, in my mind, and I'm sure in his mind, it was like, this could be the last fill in the blank. This could be the last Christmas with Justin. This could be the last Thanksgiving with Justin. This could be Justin's last birthday. This could be the last trip we take. This could be the last of our son's birthdays that we spend together with Justin here with us. But even though, Justin would sometimes bring up his future demise in a way, it wasn't like anytime I would bring up something remotely like that, he would kind of go into a bit of a tailspin. He would be like, why are you saying that? Do you think that I look like I'm dying? Like, do you think I look rough? Like, do you think why are you saying that? Like, he would really worry. And it would kind of send him into a panic, not a panic, but it would send him into this worry spiral. So like, I could never mention like, in case this is your last, whatever. We didn't talk like that. But that was what I was thinking in my head. A lot of the times it would be like, what if this is the last one? Again, like I'm mostly still leaning positive. Let's just see how things go. And we don't know. If we don't know, let's lean positive. If we know, then we work to accept it and move forward. And, you know, one thing I did want to just touch on was when we first found out, there were a bunch of things that Justin wanted to do to prepare. And that's really what I wanted to share a little bit about, because I think that might be helpful, because these are, I know we don't want to think about our dying and things like that, but we never thought we would have to think about this. And that's what all the experts say, is no one plans for this. No one hopes for this. But if you don't make some plans for it and it does happen, it makes things so much harder. And if you can do a little bit of prep, it makes things easier. And not everybody gets an illness where, you know, they have time to tie up loose ends. Sometimes it's a sudden situation and you want to have some things in order. So these are some things that we did to prepare for this moment, for the moment when he passed, and for making life smoother for me with the kids after he passed. So the first and possibly one of the most important things we did to prepare was something we did before he even got diagnosed. So I really hope this message reaches people who need to do this and have this reminder. When our first child was born, we got life insurance right after that. So that is one of the main reasons I'm still afloat after his passing. That was one of the most, he always, like, especially after he found out his diagnosis, he was like, thank goodness you made us do that. Because if we didn't do that, we would be screwed right now, because my income working in my field as a health educator, usually in a public health type space or a nonprofit space or a community health space, doesn't necessarily pay very well. So we would have been screwed without his income. So that is one of the most important things that we did. And I have to give a little shout out to my employer at the time when I was in Palm Springs. It was Desert Oasis Healthcare. It was a great place to work. I loved working there. I only left because we moved to Arizona, but they used to have a lot of beneficial things to employees. One of the things they would have was like these lunch and learns, and they would have financial folks come, usually the people who offered our 401ks and stuff like that. They would come and just do these talks about like budgeting basics, or, you know, general financial wellness, or debt, talking about debt. And one of the times that they came, they were talking about life insurance. And that's when I first started learning about life insurance. And I remember them saying specifically the types of things that I say now, which is no one ever plans to die young. No one ever plans to be disabled young and not able to work. And better to have the life insurance than not. And because of that talk, and because I got to do one-on-ones with those advisors, it convinced me to that was important, because what if something happens and our child is left with nothing? And I told Justin that I wanted us to get life insurance policies right before our first child was born. We ended up getting it just barely after he was born, which was fine. But we got that policy because we started our family together. So thank everything that is good and holy in this world, because if I didn't do that and Justin didn't go with me along with that, we would have been screwed right now. I would definitely have not been able to move from Phoenix to Portland. I would not be able to take some time off of work before I have to go back. It has made the aftermath of such a huge loss. And I remember them saying this too. They were just like, when you lose a partner, you're going to be messed up. You know, the last thing you want to do is keep up what you're doing. You want to be able to take some time with your kids and heal. So I'm really thankful that I had a great employer at the time who offered these additional benefits for all kinds of wellness, including financial wellness for the employees, and that I heard that message and that I took it seriously, and that Justin also took it seriously with me. I remember they told me basically like the way you calculate how much coverage you need is, you know, the idea is that if someone passes early, you want to, and you're relying on their income, you want to calculate how much would be required for how many years to keep things afloat for your family. Because you can assume your kids eventually will make their own money, like in their 20s. You know, you want to get them through college, stuff like that. So you want to calculate how many years you would have been relying on that income and go based on that amount for that many years. Like, what is their income right now? And times that by how many years, like what is their annual income, times that by how many years. And that's about how much you want for your policy. So, and we got a 30-year termed policy, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So we got that in place, and then it was only 2 years later, not even, almost 2 years, that Justin found out his diagnosis. So he was terrified that the policy would be invalid because he thought maybe the insurance would claim fraud or something like that, which just wasn't the case. But we obviously didn't know. It's a fast-growing cancer. It wasn't in existence at that time, 2 years prior. But he was a worrying person. He was a person who worried about a lot of different things, even though to everybody he seemed very like happy and joyful and fun-loving and stuff like that. But he really worried about a lot of things, especially just he was a provider in his heart. He wanted to make sure his family was okay. He planned on making sure his family was okay, and it was just like vitally important to him that we were not going to struggle financially in his absence. And before that, just like in general, he always wanted to make sure we would have a good life and we would, you know, have enough money to do everything that is, you know, we're not rich or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like he just wanted to make sure we could give the kids a good life, a nice place to live, you know, sports and activities, and go on some trips here and there, and just have like a normal life where nobody goes hungry and nobody is suffering because of money. So getting a life insurance policy was the first most important thing we did. Now what I was going to say is that his fears about us not receiving it, that was later quelled because they have a certain time frame to challenge anything about the applicants, and they had been outside of that time frame, so there was no way they could challenge the medical findings from the exam that they administered. So we were out of that window, so that was not a concern. So that was another weight lifted off of Justin's chest when our financial advisor told us that no, they have this amount of time to challenge or, further investigate someone if they have questions about what they've reported on their applications, and they are outside of that window. So there's no way they can challenge this. Okay, so life insurance, that was the number one thing that we did ahead of time. The rest of the things we did to prepare, for the most part, Justin was a very good saver. He was very frugal. He was very strict with me about spending. So he also just made sure to be in like a, live below your means, save as much as you can mindset. He was just kind of that way, and his parents instilled that in him as well. So he made sure to save as much as we could as a couple for our kids, and then we got the life insurance, and then the rest of the preparations were once he found out he was what his diagnosis was and his prognosis. Basically, within the same month of finding out his diagnosis, he immediately made an appointment with a person in the Surprise area to do our family trust. And that trust included all of our assets, like our home that we had just bought, our cars, savings, the life insurance policy, stuff like that. And then also it included like a will, power of attorney, like durable power of attorney, medical. It included all the things, a living will, power of attorneys, what's that other thing? Advance directives. So it included everything. That was one thing Justin wanted to make sure we put in place right away. So we did that. Then we also started working with a financial advisor that his family in Rhode Island, his brother and his mom in Arizona, was also working with. So we joined in on the family plan for financial advising. And that was, so then we started getting to know him, and I still work with him very closely even now. And we were able to kind of talk and strategize like what would be the plan once Justin passes. So it was good to just get to know him ahead of time and work with him ahead of time and do regular meetings with him and just talk about the life insurance. And he was able to guide us on that and say, no, the 2-year, whatever the window for them to look into it is over. So you're good. This is going to go through. It will be fine. I can be, the main person managing this instead of the person from over there. So we moved that to him. Another thing, which I think a lot of couples were probably already doing this, but Justin and I met as roommates, and we lived a lot of our life kind of in a similar way as housemates. For a long time, we used to do separate groceries. That changed once we got kids, but we were together for so long before that, and we still did separate groceries. Part of that was because we have different dietary we have different approaches to our diet. I've been plant-based since 2009, and he just didn't always eat the same things as I did, and we didn't always make the same meals. So it was just natural for us to buy things separately. And with that being said, we used to also have like separate money. We never combined our accounts. We would always do like a bills list and an IOU list, and we would calculate how much we owe each other. Like we were very, and admittedly that was probably more from my end, just because I couldn't wrap my head around just like if someone owed more than the other person, like it drove my brain crazy. So I would have to like know the exact amount of things. But that was something we started realizing, like, you know what, if this is a lot of things, once we found out his diagnosis and we started kind of settling into that understanding and accepting what that means, which is, I knew that it meant that in some way his life was going to be cut short by this disease. In my head, I was still thinking I was still hopeful it would be a long time from now. Like, not a long time the way you live a long time, but I was hoping we would get like 15 to 20 more years with him. I was hoping he would be able to overcome it and heal and be cancer free for a long period of time. obviously that didn't happen, and I knew it was a possibility that the prognosis they were giving us could play out, the 2 to 5 years. But a lot of things that used to be issues started to just be obviously not important anymore. So one thing was like the little IOUs and all the little things. So we started merging our finances, finally just put all our money together in one account. That felt so good. I wish we could have been able to do that before, but it felt good to just like really be a team and merge and not be so guarded with our money, even though we were living life together for so long and we were sharing expenses for everything already. But it just felt nice to actually put it all in the same account. So we got our account situated. We were working with the financial advisor and just planning out how things will go down, who I need to contact once Justin passes, how I need to go about getting the insurance money, what the plan is for the longevity of our kids. Like, we have had college funds for them since each of them were born. So like keeping that kind of stuff going, just talking about what we see for the future for our kids, and then getting the will and the living trust in place with who's going to be in charge of our kids if both of us pass, and, you know, what happens to our assets, who's going to be in charge of the assets if we pass, and, you know, monitoring that for our kids, and what age are the kids going to get the things. And so it was really important for Justin to just button all those things up and make sure that I was set up and that I knew what the plan was going to be. He was the money guy. He was smart with money. He was smart with numbers. He was smart with investments. That was a skill set that he had and that he had from his dad. His dad was smart like that too. So that was something we definitely did right off the bat. Justin wanted to do that right away. The last couple things were some things that really did make it easier for me once he did pass. He made a list of all of his passwords. And that really helped a lot, because once he passed, there were a lot of different things I needed his passwords for. He also kind of started making like a list of household things, just things for me to think about. He didn't fully get to finish out that list, but he would sometimes, like I mentioned before, he would sometimes be in his head, especially in the beginning, where he would really be, I'm sure he was thinking about all these things like, oh my God, if I die, Izzy's not going to know how to do this. Izzy's not going to know how to do that. And then he would kind of pop quiz me sometimes, like, do you know how to turn the pool pump on and off? Stuff like that he would ask me if I knew how to do it or whatever. So stuff like that, I was like, can you write those things down somewhere so that because I'm not going to remember right now, like, or send me a video and I'll save the video or something of you doing it, like the sprinklers. I don't know how to work those things. Stuff like that. Just either write down a list so that I have some instruction. So he started that, but I haven't really used that as much. I didn't have to figure too much out. And then the passwords list, that was vitally important. I needed that. One mistake I did make, which I don't know, I didn't think about this at the time, but it kind of caused some problems for me, is that I canceled his phone line like right away. And there were certain accounts that were tied to his phone number. And even now, sometimes I'll try to access something and it'll want to send a passcode to verify to his old phone number. And there's no way for me to change it other than like calling the company, which is super annoying to me, and trying to talk to them about it. Then I have to send them a death certificate. I have to send them our marriage license, stuff like that to prove that I have access to it. So it just causes a bit of a problem. So that's one thing to consider, is that if you lose a loved one and you need to access their accounts and you're in charge of their phone, maybe don't cancel the phone so quickly. And just if you're, you have access to the passwords and stuff, what I would have done differently is maybe I would have tested out all of those to just make sure that it's all hooked up to my phone, or it's email only. So that way when I do access it, all I need is the email access, which I did have access to that. So those were the main things really that Justin made. He really wanted to get on top of certain preparations and getting things in order before shit went down. That was his big thing, is like, and he would say this to me sometimes, he's like, things are going to get a lot harder and a lot worse. And you're going to, have to do a lot more to basically take care of me. Things are just going to get worse from here. And I need to get these things in order so that when that happens, I'm not scrambling or trying to figure all these things out. So I'm just very grateful that he was able to do so much to prepare for this to happen, for his eventual demise, and to make it as easy as possible for me. And he definitely did that. We are very fortunate. I always say this to people around me who know my story and know what's been going on for us for these past few years. I always say I'm very, very fortunate. In this really crappy situation, we got a lot of things right, because there are people in my exact situation with no money, with maybe they didn't even have a job when their spouse died. They have no savings. They have no life insurance. They have to keep going. They have to keep hustling, working several different jobs with their kids being so young. Like, people literally in my exact same situation, but way worse off. And my heart breaks for people in those situations and in that level of suffering. And I can only imagine what it's like to be in my situation with this horrible thing that happens. That's such a heartbreaking situation. And then to have these extra challenges and burdens on top of you, that breaks my heart. And I feel for anyone going through all of that. And I just pray for their pain to be manageable and lifted, and for everything to work out for the best. And for everyone to just be alleviated from suffering. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for me today. This was a bit of a longer one, I think. So thanks for being here with me. And I want to always end with some gratitude. And today I want to express my gratitude for just all of the blessings that I get to have in this life. My good health, my kids' good health, being in a place where I feel accepted and loved and supported, and where there are people that I've known for a really long time and who know me and love me and support me and my kids and help me, and that I can help back, and that I live in this beautiful place with this moody mist all around us, and these beautiful trees and the fall colors and the cold, cozy weather. And I have 2 great dogs that live with me. I have an amazing brother. I have the opportunity to celebrate with my kids and with all their friends and with my friends. I'm able to go to Florida soon to visit with my grandma, who's almost 90 years old and has not met my youngest and hasn't seen my 5-year-old since we were there when Justin got diagnosed, when he was 1.5 years old. I'm just very, very grateful for the way life is right now, so connected to my village and my community. I'm missing a few people in Arizona, definitely, especially my sisters, Allison. There are quite a few special people in Arizona that I am grateful for and who were there for us during our hardest times. So I'm just very grateful for all the people in my life. Au revoir.